Now, this is a webinar format, so your cameras and your audio are automatically turned to off, so you don't have to worry about that. The only person you'll see in here is me, and we do have the chat activated. So if you wanted to give a shout out or just say hello, that's a great place to do it. We also have our question answer area, the Q&A, and so this is where you will be asking any questions about what we're going over today. And yeah, we have a nice big room here today, about 122 people joining us. So a huge welcome to every single one of you. We're very happy to have you in our workshop today. And we're going to be talking about rain barrel basics. And without further ado, we'll get started. I'm Tina McIntyre. I'm the Florida Friendly Landscaping Agent at the Ophiuchus Extension in Seminole County. And this is actually part of our free WaterWise Seminole events. And again, we partner with the City of Sanford to bring this programming to you. Today is our first class. We're having rain barrel basics, and thank you all for coming in and registering for that. This Friday, the 8th at 2 o'clock, you have a chance to win one of 125 free trees. So we'll talk more about that, and I'll put the link in the chat. But you can actually get your rain barrel and get a tree if you're a super lucky double winner. And so definitely you want to register for that class, and I'll just put the link in the chat so y'all can see that, and I'll chat it again towards the end of the webinar. And then it's all going to culminate with our really great event at the Sanford Lowe's on April 16th. So we have a lot to celebrate this month. We're thinking about water conservation. It's springtime. We're all getting in the gardening mood. And then of course it's Earth Month. So we have Earth Day coming up and Arbor Day. A lot of people celebrate Arbor Day towards the end of April. So it's just a great time to get thinking about the environment, thinking about your landscape. How can we do more? How can we all contribute more? And so these events are to get you thinking about ways that you can to do that. Now, we're going to go ahead and dive in to talk about, of course, how do we qualify for the rain barrel today? So again, anybody can win. I recommend, you don't want to drive too far, obviously, but anybody will be eligible. And you do have to do a couple things. So you have to stay the whole webinar until 12 o'clock. So we will be done hopefully by lunchtime, right? And then we're going to need you to complete this survey. So I will email this to you today. Probably after lunch, sometime this afternoon, I'll email this out to you so that you're going to have an email from a program called Qualtrics. Qualtrics will send you the email, check your spam, check all folders. It's usually Q email is in the address. And so it might be kind of a weird one unless you've taken my classes before. Fill out that survey. It's just a quick kind of check. You can do it from your phone. Let us know what you learned and if you enjoyed it. And then in 3 to 6 months from now, I'm going to be following up with you to say, hey, have you installed a rain barrel? Have you made some Florida friendly improvements? Are these classes effective? And so I'll be following up with you. So expect a survey today. And then about 3 to 6 months down the road, when I'll be chatting, emailing you another survey, a different survey to see what's actually culminated from this class. And then also for the final pickup for the rain barrels, the trees, it's going to be at Lowe's on Saturday, 4/16. Okay, so if you are a winner, I will email you directly. Please be patient with me, and you'll get that winning email within the next week or so, and we'll kind of coordinate that. Now, this event is for everyone, so if you're a winner, great, come on by. Even if you're not a winner, you should still come on by because we're going to have Teresa Watkins there. I will be there. City of Sanford will be there. We're going to have lots of freebies. We're going to have our awesome butterfly container gardens. So if you won one of those maybe last year, they were amazing. We only have about 25 of them. but we will be giving those away on site as well to people who are engaging with us and learning. And so it's just going to be a great day, and that's where everything will be picked up. So, check that out. One other thing I wanted to mention before we get started with our, kind of really looking at rain barrels and thinking about all the different things is that I was actually invited to be on the City of Sanford's podcast last week. And so we kind of talked a lot about this event, and it was just so nice to be there with the City of Sanford and all of our, collaborators there from, the information department and then the utilities and everything. So let me just chat you that link real quick if you want to give it a listen later on today, or whenever, really. Check it out. It gives you all the details about the event, and then also you're gonna learn a little bit more about water conservation and what's going on in the City of Sanford. So I just chatted that link. It's called Sanford Says, and it's the podcast that I think they do weekly, or maybe monthly, I'm not sure, but they're just such a great wealth of resources. So, subscribe to that and check out my interview there. So with that, we will go ahead and get started on our rain barrel talk. So we're going to talk a little bit about Florida-friendly landscaping, watersheds in the aquifer. We're going to go over why is it important to think about water conservation, what we can water with a rain barrel, how to build a rain barrel, the installation and maintenance, and then preventing mosquitoes, obviously, is a big deal here in Florida. So the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program is a program brought to you by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, along with Seminole County and the University of Florida IFAS Extension. They all come together to fund this program to protect our unique natural resources. If you've traveled, or maybe you're from somewhere else in the world, it's so easy to see that Florida is so special and unique, and we have beaches and springs and rivers, lots and lots of water that we need to protect and take that responsibility. So it's to conserve water, to reduce waste and pollution, create habitat as we continuously urbanize, prevent erosion, and we do that through our 9 Florida-friendly principles. These are the 9 Florida-friendly principles, and the foundation is principle number 1, right plant, right place. So we want to think about planting Florida-friendly species, getting rid of invasive species, and then, everything else comes a lot easier. So watering efficiently, our Florida-friendly species are really drought resistant and, great for that. Mulching, getting that mulch out right now, and making sure your trees are well mulched, because it's usually April and May are fairly dry. So we've had some rain here in Central Florida, but that mulch is going to help if we do get a few weeks of dry spells coming up this April and May. Fertilizing appropriately. We actually have a fertilizer class coming up May 11th, so I'll put that in the chat as well. And fertilizing appropriately is something that we really have a great campaign here in Seminole County. We've educated residents. Right now we're focusing on retail stores to make sure that we're looking at a 50% slow release, 65% slow release or more. And then of course, abiding by our restricted period. So we don't want to be fertilizing with nitrogen or phosphorus because it can become pollution. The others, recycling yard waste, attracting wildlife, controlling yard pests responsibly, reducing stormwater runoff, and that's really where today falls in. So it's kind of watering efficiently, but also reducing stormwater runoff. So I've had clients who come from out west where it's illegal to have a rain barrel. That is not the case here. Stormwater tends to be our #1 source of pollution. So we want people to harness the power of that rain, use it for their yard and, activities, and then be able to, mitigate the amount of rain that's going into our storm drains and creating pollution. And of course, protecting the waterfront. We can all do this when we think about our stormwater ponds or various things around the county. So we all live in a watershed. And if you've taken my classes, you've probably heard me say this before, because a lot of those Florida-friendly principles really rely on this foundational understanding of how our land works. So as the rain falls, it picks up debris within the watershed. So our watershed here in Seminole County, we have agriculture and ranching, we have urbanization, so apartments and houses, we have, natural areas or our wilderness areas where the water tends to occur more naturally, percolating into our aquifer and our groundwater. And we have industry. So as that water and the rain falls over the land, it's picking up the various things within those watersheds and putting them into the water. So we want to be mindful of how that water is, the volume of that water and the quality of that water. So, installing a rain barrel is a great way to kind of mitigate the 55 gallons from, picking up the dog poo. And then, of course, being stewards of, picking up that dog poo and fertilizing responsibly and, managing your landscape to be more Florida friendly. And if you're new to Florida, you might not know that we actually have a rich Florida aquifer, a water resource below our feet. So we have water falling from the sky. We have water in our lakes and rivers and streams as surface water. And then we also have water below our feet. And so that water is what feeds our springs. It's what we all use for drinking and bathing, washing our cars, irrigating our landscapes. And this is a finite amount of historical water. So kind of prehistoric water exists in the aquifer. And then also it's constantly getting recharged by our rains and percolating down through our landscapes. And if there is connectivity through maybe our lakes, then, it's anything that goes into the lake is going into the aquifer. Of course, we interact with the aquifer through wells. We have deep wells and we use pumps to pump that up. You might not have personally a well, maybe you have a landscape well, but again, all of our water, if it's from a municipal supplier, such as our Seminole County Utilities, they have a well, and so that's where they're getting it. So it's just important to be mindful that in Florida, we're so close to this aquifer, and the sandiness of our soils don't allow for a lot of buffering. And so anything that's put onto the soil tends to percolate. And this goes for our septic tanks as well. And that's why those are a big concern of pollution as well, because the septic tanks are very close to the aquifer. So make sure you're pumping your septic tank, right? So just a little bit more about that aquifer. Well, if you go to some of these Florida springs, you can see the karst porous limestone. And this is really what is below our feet. And so you can see here on this picture, it just looks like a big rock or a piece of coral. And it has a lot of holes in it. So it looks kind of like a sponge, but obviously it's very hard. And sinkholes, drainage basins, springs link that surface water to our groundwater or aquifer. The Florida aquifer has a limited supply of water, and the superficial aquifer is most vulnerable to contamination. So it's kind of like a lasagna down there in the aquifer. There's various layers that go on down there. And so we have our deep, aquifer, and then we have what we call the superficial aquifer, which is much closer to our feet. And this is, again, our main source of drinking water and potable water use. So, again, here we have our watershed, which is our land. That might not be very accurate because those look more like higher hills, or I don't even think Claremont's that high. But you get the idea that the water kind of tends to drain over the land, even with a small amount of elevation. And then here we have our limestone. The superficial aquifer is up top. And then there's a upper semi-confining unit, which kind of breaks them apart. And then we have our porous limestone below, and then the lower aquifer. So, and this varies throughout the state, right? It's geology, it's created by the earth. So it's not looking this clean throughout the state, but as you get the general idea. So why is water conservation important? Well, 50%, they say 50 or 60%, varying, depending on household, of our water usage, our total house water usage, comes from outdoor irrigation. So if we want to save water, if we want to think about, conserving water, focusing on the landscape is really important, right? Turning off the water when we brush our teeth and low flow toilets and efficiency appliances, those are all really important because it's still 40 or 50%. However, if we just have one irrigation system that's contributing to half of our water bill, figuring that out and starting there is a great place to do so. So, and Florida is rapidly urbanizing. You can't really drive one of our highways or a major road without seeing some kind of, new development going up or things like that. And that urbanization transfers where we have percolation going on, natural soils, natural trees, and evapotranspiration to paved areas. And so that paved area does not allow the filtration to occur into our aquifer. And so as we have more pavement, more roads, more homes, more roofs, parking lots, we are not getting as much percolation into our aquifer. And experts from our Central Florida Water Initiative, which is we'll get to here in a second, highlight that increased demand could lead to a strain on our aquifer and our freshwater resources. So if you use less water while still meeting your landscape needs, helping preserve the aquifer is really our goal. So just to kind of break it out and show you a little bit more from the American Water Works Association, where they study this kind of stuff, you could see, our landscape is contributing to about 59% of our residential average water use. So you can see there's a wedge for toilets and clothes and shower and leaks, obviously, things like that. But we do have, a lot going to that residential wedge. And when we think about where we're going in our state and what it's going to look like in the future, the predictions from our University of Florida Geo Plan Center and Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, along with the 1,000 Friends of Florida, made some predictions and models. And they said, what's the baseline for 2010? And you can see that they're pictured at the top. The red is going to be our developed land. So again, not pervious. It's not going to be percolating into the aquifer, reduced green space. And if we trend out to 2070, so less than 50 years from now, we have a couple options. And so if we continue as we are currently developing, we can see a lot of our green space is going to be transitioning to urban areas. And if we were, slow, urbanization down, we still have a significant portion that's going to be urban. So we have our Central Florida Water Initiative, and this is really a conglomerate of our 3 major water management districts, the water utilities, environmental groups, business organizations, agricultural communities, and other stakeholders. And they looked at water usage and these predictions, and they said in 2035 we're going to need about 1,100 million gallons per day for Central Florida. Well, we have about 800 million gallons, and we can get an extra 50 in our traditional groundwater that's available, but we still have a deficit of about 250 million gallons per day. And so we are rapidly approaching that, gap. And what we need to do is really water conservation. Water conservation is paramount, and, we need to really focus on that. And so again, the landscape is a place where we can think about that. And when we talk about irrigation, we talk about water, we want to think about all of the rain that we get here in Florida. We are so blessed. I went out west and they said they average 18 inches in a part of Colorado for the year. Here in Florida, we get an average of, I believe, 360 inches of rain per year. And if your average plant needs about an inch of water per week, then, of course, we get a lot of water and then we don't get water. But in general, as long as we're planting the right plant in the right place, we're going to be not needing a lot of extra water. And so we want to think about rain as our primary method of watering. Think, even if you have a rain barrel, right? We want to utilize that rain, relocate your gutters so that they're flowing over your turf grass, flowing into your landscape beds, and really providing a lot of the surface area from your roof onto that landscape. And, think about your water. I have great apps on my phone where I can find out about the weather, how much has fallen in my area. You can also use a rain gauge as it fills from that rain. After it does, you dump it out, and then the next one you can look at it so that you know how much your property is getting in terms of rain. So with water conservation, we want to, look at our plants and water when they show signs of drought stress. Even if we have a rain barrel, we can overwater our plants, and we don't want to be doing that. So look at your plants, think about what their needs are. Once those leaves start closing and they're wilting, maybe it has a bluish green color or the turf grass is curling up, that's when we know we need to water. Water in the early morning, so not between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Early 6 a.m., 7 a.m. is a great time to water. You must test the operation of each device in the system. So if you have a functioning irrigation system, then we definitely want to be doing that. And repairing any leaks. Obviously, we saw leaks can contribute to a big amount. And if it's in the landscape, those leaks are really a lot of water. And confirm that operating condition is, efficient and appropriate. And remember that all functioning water irrigation systems must have a rain sensor. So you can see we are in Seminole County, we are in the St. Johns River Water Management District, and we do have watering restrictions. So we just passed daylight savings time where we're April through October. We're allowed to water 2 days a week. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to, especially we've been getting some rains recently. And again, watch those plants. So I know I have not changed my system to be 2 days a week. It's still at the 1 day a week because it's really not necessary. We've been getting those rains. So feel it out. These are general restrictions and see what's good for your landscape. So thinking about why rain barrels. Well, there's lots of benefits of rain barrels. It reduces your need for irrigation for well or from a municipal source. And so that can save you money, right? If we are paying monthly for our irrigation or for our water, saving a little bit of water can actually save you money on your utility bill, which is great, right? Rain can be better for the most sensitive plants like orchids. It can prevent erosion. So if you have a lot of washout going on and some gutter areas that are really, washing out, then putting a rain barrel right there is a great way to kind of slow that flow down, harness the power of all that water that you're having access to. It provides water during droughts or even dry periods. And so, when we do enter our dry season, starting in, November, December, the rains start to get scarce. But even one rain on an average size house will fill up that barrel. And so you're going to have access to rainwater pretty much, throughout the dry season. I know mine's been pretty full this dry season. So that's always nice. It improves your local water quality. So like we talked about, every time our gutters are discharging water, they're going and, creating stormwater. And so if we're saving that water in the barrel and utilizing it, that's less water going out into our lakes, rivers, and streams as stormwater. And it reduces rain runoff. So same concept, reducing pollution and possibly reducing flooding. So how do we make a rain barrel? Well, the biggest question is, where can we get one? Right? We used to have a connection here in Seminole County or in Central Florida that we would get the barrels donated to us. Unfortunately, that has dried up, so to speak. The factory closed. And so we no longer have access to food grade barrels. And so that's why we're so thankful for our city of Sanford. They actually get them from Orlando Drum and then create them to be rain barrels. And so if you have access to a food grade barrel, then you can clean it out and make it into a rain barrel. Now, you want to be careful with using things that are not food grade. So barrels ship a lot of things. We don't want to be using something that had pesticides in it or other type of things that are not good for our garden or environment. And so when we can get a food grade barrel that just had maybe pickles or olives or other things in there, then that's fantastic. And you know, might have syrup, like corn syrup or something. So you might have to clean it out. Identify a location. So put it on a level, sturdy platform, because again, it's a 50, you know, most of them are 55-gallon drums or barrels. And so if you have kids or pets, you want to make sure that it's very sturdy. Some of them come with a top, and so you might have to use a sawzall to actually saw out the top portion of the barrel. And then we're going to drill that hole for the spigot and screw it in so that we have, you know, access. And that's usually about 6 inches above the bottom of the barrel. Install the overflow outlet. So if you do have, you know, too much rain, if you don't have one of those, it'll just go out the top. Not a huge deal. And make sure that you have mesh over the top and that bungee cord to wrap around it so that the mosquitoes don't lay their larvae in there. So now we're going to...
With all this rain, it's time to build a rain barrel. A rain barrel will reduce stormwater runoff and save you water. First, you need a barrel. We use food-grade 55-gallon drums. Next, we saw off the lids. You'll want to put your barrel under a downspout or at a point where your roof collects a lot of water. We add an overflow valve near the top of the barrel. You use it to connect to more rain barrels or screw in a hose so that extra water will flow to another part of the yard. Then we put the spigot near the base of the barrel. For both the overflow valve and spigot, we use 3/4 inch adapters and a 15/16 inch paddle for the drill. You will have to enlarge the hole slightly for the adapters to fit in. Last, we add a screen to keep out insects and debris. And that's all there is to it. Visit our website to learn more about rain barrel workshops. This has been a Florida Yards and Neighborhoods program. With all this rain, it's time to build a rain. With all this rain.
There we go. Okay, awesome. And I'm just checking the chat during our video, and yes, thank you. Our master gardener, Richard, corrected me on the average inches. So not 360, that's way too much, but it is about 60 or 50 or 60. So we have 52 weeks in a year, so that's about 1 inch per week. So yes, thank you. My brain went to 360, but it's actually 50 to 60, where we get about, 52 weeks in a year, and so that's about 1 inch per week, on average, of course, give or take. So once we've created our rain barrel, or maybe won it, how do we install it and connect it to the gutter? So again, you're going to want to pick a location that is by your home. I know that some people think if we just put it out in the yard, will it fill up? I've had that question. That's really not the way to go. So we want to use our roof as, getting that volume of surface area to be able to harness that rain coming off of the roof. So you have your gutter coming down, and you would just saw off that area, detach it. So you can see here I had some brackets on my gutter system, detach that, and then remove the gutter that you're going to be using. Definitely creating a flat surface. So here you can see I was raking the area to be nice and flat. And then installing, for me, I started off with some wood at the bottom just to kind of give it a little bit of give around the soil. And then I used pavers, a stack of pavers, to be able to elevate the barrel. Elevating the barrel increases the gravitational pull, because we're not using a pump on this. Well, you can, however, that's much more complicated. And so we can just elevate the barrel and use gravity to be able to pull that water out of the barrel. And again, you want to install a mesh screening on the top of the barrel so that we're not having mosquito larvae or other insects or debris getting into that barrel, and it keeps it, much more clean. So you can do that just with getting a piece of screen and putting the bungee cords around. Now, of course, it's Florida, it's hot, there's sun, there's rain. So these bungee cords might need to be switched out every year or two, checking them just to make sure that they're not, kind of fraying and things like that. And then also the screening to make sure that it is still viable and taut. And that's really important, because if your screen is just flopped into the middle, then it's not doing its purpose, and so you want it to be nice and taut at the top, as this one is here. So once you have it up and your gutter is, ready to go, you're going to need a gutter converter. And this will just kind of help direct that water into the barrel. Now, some of them you can, if it has a closed area, then you can put it right into there. So like some of them you can buy online, they look really nice and it's closed at the top. Other ones, again, this was just an open barrel at the top. So there's a few versions out there, just depending on what you want. And again, if you live in a homeowners association, talk to them first. Some of them might have requirements on the color of the barrel, the location of the barrel. And so, it is your right to do Florida friendly landscaping on your property. However, if you live in an HOA, you need to get their approval in how to do so. And so have that conversation before you do it, and that way everything is smooth and you are working together. And then you can see here at the end of the converter, I have what we call a leaf catch. And so anything, if you don't have those gutter guards on the tops of your gutters, if they're just open gutters, the leaves and acorns and all that stuff will go in there and come down the gutter and into your barrel. So this leaf catch is really nice. The gutter guards are great too, because that keeps your gutters from getting all the debris in there. But that's really a big project, right? And so the leaf catch at the very least will prevent it from further entering the barrel. So we have a few kind of points of, making sure that we keep this water clean, because once we get, debris or insects or other things in there, it's going to change the dynamic of the water. It's going to prevent the flow. So we want the water to flow out nicely, and we don't want any leaves stopping it up. So doing these little things are going to make sure that that water stays relatively clean. Now you will get algae, but you can clean it out. I usually like to do in the dry season when it's pretty empty. You can clean it out You know, make sure you're trying to dump that water into like an outside sink drain so that, you know, that soap is not going into the environment. If you're using soap, or maybe just even a scrub brush or some vinegar to clean the barrel. So how do we implement and what do we irrigate? And so it's really important that we think about, you know, what we're irrigating with this rain barrel. And if you are willing to go the extra mile, because if you have certain types of roofs, that's not appropriate for irrigating edible crops. And so definitely ornamentals are a green light. We have, you know, our little landscapes, we have containers. You can see here a lot of containers. They're great for that, container gardening. You know, during drought, we can do our trees, you know, things like that. But when we think about edible stuff, we really need to think about what type of roof we have. So specifically avoid watering edible plants if you have an old tar and gravel, old asbestos shingle roofs, treated wood shingles or shakes, copper roofs, and if you have a zinc anti-moss strip. So that's quite a list. Your typical shingles are, you know, asphalt shingles. If you have those are, you know, so let me just double check this. Also pay attention to the type of gutter you have. Since you may have, some may be coated with lead-based paint. So if you have an older gutter system, that's probably something to avoid as well. Again, you can install the barrel and use it on your landscaping, but not necessarily recommended for your edible stuff. Many residents with an asphalt shingle roof avoid watering vegetables since complex hydrocarbons may be leached from the roof. However, there is no definitive research to prove the extent of leaching. And so we did actually look at University of Rutgers has some research that they did with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources. And they did show that a lot of the water coming off of these asphalt shingle were appropriate. So we still want to treat it. And so you can see this is actually from their study. It was done in conjunction with, again, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and the United States Environmental Protection Agency back in 2012 and 2011. They have, you know, an extension through that university there. And so you can see here, they did some sampling for just standard New Jersey drinking water standards, and they looked at the number of samples. So you could see that they tested for lead, zinc, coliform, and really it's not necessarily, you could see the percentages were fine for the lead and zinc, but we can have issues with bacteria. And so to be able to, you know, kind of quell that concern, we can use a treatment method. And so the lead and the zinc both were under levels for irrigation and drinking water. The E. coli was only above 9% of tests for irrigation and 66% for drinking water standards. So rain barrel users should make sure to clean the barrel with a 3% bleach solution before collecting water to irrigate a vegetable or herb garden. Household unscented bleach with a 5 to 6% chloride solution can be added at the rate of 1/8 of a teaspoon or 8 drops of bleach per gallon of water. So a typical 55-gallon rain barrel would need approximately 1 ounce or 2 tablespoons of bleach added on a monthly basis. And again, this is to get rid of any bacteria that would be living in the barrel. During periods of frequent rainfall, bi-monthly treatment may be necessary. Wait approximately 24 hours after the addition of bleach to allow the chlorine to dissipate before using the water. And note that household bleach is not labeled for use in water treatment by the Food and Drug Administration, although it is frequently recommended for emergency disinfection of drinking water. And again, this is coming from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. So, you know, it's doable. Focusing on your ornamentals is easier because, you know, it can have that bacteria. And so if you think about birds might poop on our roof, or, you know, these bacteria exist in the environment, so they might be persisting in the barrel. And we don't want to be introducing that into our lettuce, you know, or kale, or things that we're going to be bringing into the house and eating. So thinking about frequently asked questions for the rain barrel. How often should I clean my rain barrel? At least 1 to 2 times per year is a great thing to do to clean your rain barrel. Again, now's a good time, or anytime during the dry season, really. Once it's full and it's raining every day during our summer, not only is it super hot outside, but you know, you're getting that rain, and so you want it to be functioning. So now's a really great time to think about that, cleaning out any leaf litter or debris. The spring or fall, you might be getting pollen, and clear out if the water has been sitting for a long time or algae appears. So if you are seeing algae in there, then, you know, it's a good time to clean your barrel. Maybe it's been a while. And mosquitoes. So obviously we have a lot of mosquitoes here in Florida. And so mosquitoes are really, you know, we want to think about the larva. So the early stage of the mosquito. So the one that we see flying around, those are the adult females. The adult females are going to lay their eggs on the surface of a water or a very wet soil surface. And those eggs hatch, and the larva lives inside of water for, you know, however many days, and then they gestate and fly off as adults. And so we want to prevent those larvae from being in our barrel or even around our house. So if you're having issues with mosquitoes, poke around your yard. You might have some, you know, pooling, standing water, you know, low spots in your yard, a bird bath, possibly, you know, some bricks where the water's just kind of caught, old tarps. So if you have tarps in your yard, buckets, you know, they fill up, holes of trees, gutters. Gutters are actually a huge culprit because they get stopped up with all those debris, the acorns, the pollen, the leaf material, and it creates a mat. And that mat is not only not draining very efficiently, but it's holding water. It's holding water that mosquitoes really like. And so cleaning your gutters out to be able to avoid those mosquitoes and the mosquito larvae is really important. So, and then of course our rain barrels is no exception. So remove standing water, clean out those gutters, remove old tires, buckets, saucers, grills, wheelbarrows, toys from your yard, rinse out the bird baths and even bromeliads. So they're a great Florida friendly plant, but they basically act like a little cup. And so, you know, that water can stand, and so you can take a hose and just spray it out every once and again to be able to make sure that that water's not standing. And then we also have mosquito dunks. These are natural insecticides for mosquitoes. It's actually a bacteria that kills the larva of mosquitoes. So it's a natural, it's kind of a natural insecticide. It's non-chemical, it's a biological insecticide. And so those bacteria are going to get into the gut of the larva and actually destroy the larva. And so this is something that they're called mosquito dunks. It's a round cake of the bacteria. And so they also come in bits. So you can buy dunks or bits, and you can put those into the bromeliads or into the rain barrel. And that's just going to be an extra line of protection. If the larvae get in there, the bacteria is also in there. And so we're having a natural kind of occurrence of getting rid of them. And what should I do with my barrel for a hurricane preparation? I know none of us want to be thinking about hurricanes, but it's a fact of living in our state. And so when we start to see a formed storm and, you know, we think it might be coming our way, we definitely want to be preparing our yard and preparing our rain barrel. And there's a way to do that. So we want to empty the barrel and store it in a secure area. So like a shed, You know, obviously the 55-gallon barrel full is very heavy, but it could, you know, depending on the type of storm, it could fall over and, you know, be blowing around the yard. That would be bad. And so we want to drain it and store it in a secure location. And then you're going to actually keep that gutter that we cut off earlier, and we're going to reattach it. And you can get just a gutter converter to reattach it. And then extend gutter extenders, as you can see here, divert that water away from the home, right? We don't want to be creating erosion by the foundation of our house. We want to be extending the gutters to, you know, flow onto the turf, flow into the landscape, and not putting the end of the gutter by our driveway or, you know, towards the end of the road or things like that. We want to be using it on our percolating area. So just as a reminder, we are going to be sending a survey today. We have a survey that's going to be coming to you and makes you eligible for the giveaways on the 16th. And then I'll also send you another survey in 3 to 6 months from now. So again, before we turn to questions, and make sure that you've put all your questions in the question and answer section, because I don't have a wing buddy, a co-pilot here today. And so I don't want to miss any questions in the chat. So definitely, you know, put them in the question and answer section, because we got a lot in the chat and some sweet comments. So thank you for your nice feedback. Again, thank you to the City of Sanford. This is our WaterWise Seminole events. Today is our first class. We have another class on Friday, and that is going to be all about trees. We're going to be talking about pruning and planting and the benefits of trees. And so I will chat that link again so that you can win some free trees. And let me put that in the chat. There we go. So sign up and register for that class. We also have another class coming up on May 11th, where you can win a free bag of fertilizer. This is going to be a class that we're teaching along with our partners at Orange County Extension and Orange County. And we're going to have a free bag of fertilizer for those in Seminole County. So register today for that one coming up. And let's see what else. We're going to give you my contact information. And I also, just before we turn to questions, I'm going to put in the chat how you can get a hold of us. So we have our Seminole County Facebook page. You can follow us on Facebook. I have a playlist of several videos. So if you like the webinar today, check out my YouTube, which I just chatted. The YouTube playlist has tons of videos. We actually have some videos on there, which are a sneak peek of my new book, which is Plant This, Not That. And so you can actually check out a few plants, some videos we did about the plants in this book. So that YouTube link has great webinars, videos, snippets, things like that. I'm also on LinkedIn. And so you can follow me or friend me or whatnot on LinkedIn. And I'll put, you know, usually I'll post classes and different opportunities there. So check that out. And then we also have our Florida Friendly Landscaping University of Florida website, which is fantastic. There's a lot of resources there, all types of things about, you know, getting more information on the 9 principles, example photos of Florida Friendly awards and resources, and tons of information. And that website was designed in the last year, so it's up to date and fantastic. So check that out. And then last but not least, I've been working hard on several UF-IFAS EDIS publications. And so I actually have about 8 listed on the website that I just chatted, the edis.ifas.ufl.edu, and lots of great extension publications about Florida Friendly. So read those, get tips, tricks, and ideas about Florida Friendly and how we can all be more Florida friendly. So you can find those on that page I just chatted. And now we're going to turn to questions for just a few more minutes. So again, if you put a question in the chat, I probably didn't see it. So make sure you put it in the question and answer section so I can get to it. So I have a question on mulch. As we talked about at the top of the hour, the Florida Friendly Landscaping Principle mulch. And so if we get 1 inch of rain on top of our 2 inches of mulch, does that actually go into the soil? So that's a good question. That's kind of an interesting question. The rain will percolate down. And so gravity is doing, we're standing on Mother Earth, and she is massive, and that creates gravity and gravitational pull. And, obviously it exerted on us, but also on the water that falls as rain or irrigation. And so that is going to percolate through, yes, it will percolate through the mulch, even if it's 1 inch. Now, if you have really good mulch and it's fresh and really absorbent, then that mulch is going to, swell up essentially with water and get wet. But it's going to hold the water at the surface where those roots are. And so it's kind of an interesting question there, Bob. Thank you. Let's see, what else? Any suggestions on getting better volume when attaching hose? Our rain barrel is raised on 3 concrete blocks, but the hose, the water trickles out. Yes, so I like to use a about a 1 inch hole to drill out the spigot. Make your spigot bigger. Okay, so yes, you can raise it up and the gravity is going to help, but if your spigot's really small, then it's not going to come out very fast. So make your spigot bigger, and you can get a converter, like an adapter, to be able to still size it down if you're going to a hose from there. Now, if you have your hose and you're standing up, that you're reversing the gravity. So even if the barrel's here, the water's going all the way down and it won't come back out the hose. The hose has to be lower than the barrel for it to come out of the hose. So you could do a soaker hose. Soaker hoses will, they're below the barrel, the bottom of the barrel. And so that could work. Just some ideas there. And is it a different kind of material that you can use on the top of the barrel, because the creation of trash that is going to help our purposes for clean water in the future? I'm not sure I understand that question, Ava. But the screening, if you're concerned about the screening, really, I don't have a lot of other ideas. It's like, what do we use to keep mosquitoes out of our house? Screening. So not a lot of other options. Maybe like a cheesecloth, but that's not going to stay as tight, and it's very delicate and sensitive, so it would not last in our environment, I wouldn't think. Yeah, so do you have a list of roofs and gutters not to use? I can go back to that. So essentially we're thinking about anything that's not an asphalt shingle. And so you want to avoid, sorry, I'm going a little quick here, but essentially avoiding tar and gravel, old asbestos shingles, treated wood shingles or shakes, copper roofs, anti-moss stripping for your side of your gutter, and then any old lead-based paints for your gutters. So that would be the list of things from that study particularly that I was referencing. And how many barrels per home do you recommend? I mean, that really depends on what you're irrigating. So if you have a very large area, you're doing a lot of maybe soaker hoses. If you have a large landscape, then it just depends if you have a lot of containers. So really, it's just a ratio of the surface area of your lawn and your landscape to the amount of water, and then also the plants that you've selected. So if they're high water plants, then you're going to need more water. So if you have a lot of drought tolerant, aloes, agaves, then they really don't need much water at all. So it just depends on that. Do I suggest that our irrigation system be on its own meter? I don't know if they would do that. You'd have to talk with your utility about that. I'm not quite sure. Thank you for your nice comments here. I'm just scrolling through. How much pressure is generated by the rain barrel? Is it enough for the drip irrigation? Yes, you know, like I said, you could hook it up to drip, you could hook it up to soaker. The higher, the more gravitational pull. And then the bigger the spigot and the lower it, you know, about 6 inches is good to the bottom of the barrel. You know, too low and you're going to be getting any debris, and too high, you're not going to be getting that gravity. So 6 inches is kind of the sweet spot. And what else we have? Oh, what kind of trees for Friday? We have Chickasaw plums, which were very, very exciting last year, and a lot of people wanted them. So definitely, you know, please do that. And also, please not promoting your business in our chat box. That's not what this is about. So otherwise, I will have to deactivate your privileges. Thank you. And then landscape design. We can't recommend anyone in particular, like a landscape architect company, but just look online and see landscape architects and things like that. They can be really good. We do have a landscape design class that I offer periodically. So you can, you know, follow us and check out for that. And you can also talk to our master gardeners. So here you can see our plant clinic and helpline is listed for our master gardeners at seminolecountyfl.gov and their phone number. You can reach out to them and let them know you're trying to go more Florida friendly, and they can give you ideas about what maybe you want to remove if you have invasive species, and how to enhance that area. All right, winding down here. Is the rain barrel water safe for animals? I would not recommend it. So we want to be giving our animals potable water so that they stay healthy, right? So we don't recommend that. So you want to be giving your animals potable water, and the barrel water is not potable. It is rainwater. So one thing I do use it for, like I actually have quail. And so when I'm cleaning out the quail cage, if that tray, I need to kind of wash it, I use the rain barrel water. Or my bird feeder yesterday, was getting kind of moldy at the bottom. So cleaning out the bird feeder, you know, to really get the gunk out, and then taking it and doing soap and potable after that, so it's nice and clean. So the rain barrel water can be used as like a preliminary wash to kind of get all that funky stuff off outside, and then you can bring it inside and do a soap. So maybe you know, your tools, you know, so if you're washing your garden tools or things like that, so things around the yard. But again, it's not potable water, so we don't want to be using it for drinking, for our pets or livestock or anything like that. So the barrels that we're winning, those are going to be a full completed rain barrel. So it'll have the screen, it'll have the spigot, it'll be ready to go. So don't worry about that. And let's see if we have one more question before we sign off. And on Home Depot says a rain barrel water diverter kit to attach the barrel to the gutter, so you can send the water down the spout when the barrel is full, or detach it for cleaning. Yeah, so you can, you know, they might have kits available for kind of attaching. I know for us, I got the brown one because we were buying in high volume to create lots of rain barrels at once, and so we kind of just had to get whatever colors they had. And the kits were more expensive, but you can certainly look at that. So yeah, rain barrels can be expensive. I'm just looking in the chat, over $100. That's correct. They are not cheap. And so thank you all for joining us today to be able to win, you know, one of these 12 barrels. You know, so I will send the survey today. Again, make sure that you fill it out. through your email. Take just a second to do that. And then I will email you sometime next week about if you are a winner. So if you don't get the email, you probably didn't win. But again, we have 125 trees. So stay tuned for that, register for that class and see if you can be picking up a tree as well. So with that, I will end the webinar. Thank you all so much for joining me today and for learning about rain barrels. And, you know, don't forget to join us for our class on Friday. And then hopefully I'll see some of you at the Lowe's in Sanford on 4/16 on Saturday. So I look forward to that. And thank you again. Y'all have a great rest of your day.